Okay, so we're going to do a recap through some of the settings that you'll need to make for creation of your template. Just a brief recap, maybe and hopefully we'll simplify some of the stuff that you would have come across online and in the links. So at the moment on my screen here, I have a file. A file is open, a new file, and we want to make some adjustments and we want to save this as a template. First things first, we want to make sure we keep saving this template. So you can build it up gradually, make sure you keep saving it, and to recap, we are saving by file, save as, and we're going to make sure we change from a drawing file to drawing template. That's near the bottom of my screen. Hopefully you can see that. That's a .dwt. Now when we select to save as a template, the system changes the file location. Now that might or might not be where you want the template to go. So I'm going to, for ease, just save this onto my desktop. And I'm going to save it with something logical, a name that you would recognize, my initials, and I'm just indicating it's a template. So always remember, file, save as, drawing template, and when you're saving it, check the location. Don't set the location before you select template, because it will send you off to a different location, the default location. So at the moment, and to recap, I have this thing called model space. I also have this tab in the command line, sheet 1, happens to be paper space. So we're looking at the paper, the layout that would be printed. Really, we don't print from model space generally. I have 2 sheets. So the ISO template that I opened up by default, or the system has opened up by default, has given me 2 sheets. I'm going to delete one of those. I don't need it, or we don't need it. So we're down to model space and sheet 1. And what you can see on there at the moment is 4 lines really, what look like 4 lines anyway. And we have this icon down here. We can get rid of that. Again, to recap, we're going to view, display, CCS icon, and we've just turned that off because I don't like it on the screen. You can choose to do what you want. This here isn't really 4 lines. It happens to be the viewport, and the viewport allows us to scale things on paper. So when we talk about templates, we might talk about the scale, and we might want to indicate the scale on the drawing. Quite often you might see the acronym NTS, or do not scale. NTS, not to scale. You might see the words do not scale, or you might see a specific scale, 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, whatever that might be. And we use the viewport to scale what is drawn in model space. So we always draw in model space at 1 to 1, almost always as a mechanical engineer anyway. And then we scale the viewport. The viewport can be resized. You can have multiple viewports on screen, but for our work as beginners, we will almost certainly only use a single viewport. And so we talk about this drawing and building up a template. So what we draw in model space might be the component. We might draw a square, and when we go to the sheet, we can see that square now in our viewport. This is our viewport, and this here, which we can't really select, is something that's seen in the viewport. If I double click in the viewport, you notice the lines go thick, and using the mouse I can zoom in and zoom out, and I can pan my model space around inside that viewport. So quite simply, you can see we can scale what is drawn in model space. And if I dimension that, you would find the dimension doesn't change, but the size of the view changes within the viewport on our template. If I double click outside of the viewport, we deselect the viewport and it becomes frozen. We're starting to zoom and pan the sheet around rather than what is inside the viewport. So I'll delete that for now because we don't want anything on the model space as we're creating our template. So basic creation of our template. We would want to start off with a border of some sort. So I'm going to base this template on an A4 sheet. You're learning at home. You'll almost certainly have an A4 printer, but you probably won't have A3 or anything bigger. But we can have templates for different sheet sizes. I'm going to work on A4. So I'm going to produce a drawing on this paper space. So I'm going to start off with a rectangle. And I'm going to use my coordinate system. So I'm going to start off slightly inboard, 5mm inboard from A4. So I'm going to go 5, 5 is my start position. You can see that is typed into the command window. And I'm going to, in A4 landscape, so I am going 297 by 210 is A4. So I'm going to 292 by 205 is my size for 5mm inboard from my top right corner. So I started lower left and top right. So A4 297mm by 210mm for landscape A4. Let's tidy up the viewport a little bit. I'm just selecting the viewport, selecting the corners, and just moving that inside my A4 border at the moment. Obviously, the paper that's being displayed is much bigger than A4 at the moment, and we'll work on that in some other tutorials. We'll get that scaled correctly and sized correctly as we work through. I'm going to produce a line across the bottom, or a couple of lines across the bottom that I can start using as a title block. So I'm starting at 5mm in X, and I'm going to make my spacings at 10mm. So my original Y coordinate was 5mm up, so I'm going to go 15. And using my end snap, I'm making sure I'm perpendicular. I'm going to repeat my line tool, and I'm going to be starting at 5,25 and perpendicular. I can look at my viewport. I'm going to just scale that inboard for the time being, and you can see now I've got a sort of border, and I'm starting to generate some area where I can type in my name and the drawing title and other notes and things, the date, things that you would expect to see on a drawing, an engineering drawing. I can make the thing start to look a bit better, so maybe I want a double line on this outside, so I could use my modify command offset, read the command window. The offset distance might be 2. My source entity is the rectangle and I want it to go outside. So there we go, we're starting to generate something that can start to look nice as an engineering title block, as well as presenting the right information. We can present it neatly and make our drawing, present our drawing in the way that we might want it to be presented. So starting off, we've done nothing else other than draw a rectangle and a few lines, and we are drawing on paper space. If we go into our model, you will note nothing we have drawn in paper space is being shown in model space, and that's how we would like to start to produce a template. So saving, another recap, file, save as. It's remembered I was on the desktop, it's remembered what I was doing, but note it's DWG. We must save as drawing template. It's sent me to the default location for templates. You find a logical place for your template and save where you want to save. I wouldn't suggest the desktop is suitable or logical. Save it in a file structure that suits you, and I'm going to be overwriting my template. Yes, please, I do want to overwrite my template. Okay, so we'll make some progress next time and have a go. Draw on paper space, start to produce a template. I would suggest an A4 template, but feel free to produce one in A3. We can always print to fit the paper available anyway. Yeah, good luck with that, and look out for the next video on the semester learning website. That's great, thanks very much.